Number 10. Deadpool. On Earth 12,101, the X-Men grew tired of Deadpool's instability and insanity and had him committed to the Ravencroft Asylum, hoping that he could be cured of his madness. Unfortunately, his doctor was really a disguised psycho man who was using his position to try and brainwash insane people into doing his bidding, much like we do here at Top 10 Nerd. He took away the voices in Wade's head, but they were replaced by a new voice that was telling Deadpool to kill everyone. He became aware of his status as a fictional puppet and went on a killing spree of everyone in the Marvel Universe, both hero and villain. In this story, we get detailed accounts of how he defeated the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man, and the Avengers, just to name a few, but many other characters were killed off-panel or given just the briefest of looks to let us know their fate. One of these one-panel kills was the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. We aren't told how Deadpool accomplished this kill, but the decapitated head and nearby chain makes me think he may have used the Rider's chain against him. On another alternate Earth, Deadpool was again driven into a homicidal rampage when the Red Skull and the other villains combined forces and brainwashed Deadpool into acting as their agent of evil. In Deadpool's mind, he was going off on fun, whimsical adventures where no one was getting hurt, but in reality, he was brutally taking out the heroes of the Marvel Universe. Once again, he went up against a Ghost Rider, this time Robbie Reyes. And once again, we were given very little explanation as to how Deadpool managed to win against the demonic Rider. But however it came about, this Ghost Rider was no match for a delusional merc with a mouth. Number 9. The X-Men. In this conflict, featured in X-Men Volume 2 Number 9, the Daniel Ketch Ghost Rider was infected by an alien race called the Brood, which took over his mind and turned him against the heroes. This forced the team of mutants to have to take on Ghost Rider and the Brood at the same time. Beast got a few good licks in on Ghost Rider before the floor collapsed and the group was separated. In the tunnels they fell into, Wolverine flung himself at the Rider, dealing serious damage with his adamantium claws faster than Ghost Rider could heal himself. As he was in a somewhat alien form, the Rider used the long tail he had grown to keep Wolverine and Beast at bay, but he soon retreated with Beast and Logan chasing after him. He then began to tangle with the other X-Men, nearly taking out Rogue before getting hit by Cyclops' optic blasts and being thrown off long enough for Gambit to drive him back with his kinetic playing cards and for Belladonna to hold him in place while Psylocke drove a psionic blade through his skull and entered his mind to free Ghost Rider from the alien's control. In this fight, Ghost Rider wasn't in control of his actions and might have fared better if he was in the driver's seat, but the X-Men were able to defeat him with the one power that Ghost Rider couldn't match: the power of friendship. Number 8. The Hulk. When the Hulk believed that the group of super beings who sent him off planet, the Illuminati, were responsible for the destruction of his home and the death of his wife on the planet Sakaar, he vowed revenge and returned to Earth and took over New York City. Several of the heroes of the Marvel Universe tried to stop him, but none were a match for the Hulk's unstoppable rage. In an effort to stop him, the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider was sent in to try and stop him. It is important to note that in this fight, it was not the demon Zarathos in control, but Johnny Blaze, so he wasn't operating at full power. Hulk started out by throwing Blaze through a building with a thunderclap. He responded by getting on his bike and using his chain to bring down an entire building on the Hulk. This seemed to have no effect, and the Hulk simply picked Blaze up and told him to stay out of his way before tossing him into the air. Johnny managed to snag Hulk with his chain and tried to drag him with his motorbike, but Hulk attached the chain to a subway car, distracting the Rider long enough for him to get to the top of a small building and leap down onto Blaze and smash him. Blaze lied in a crater, totally extinguished, but Zarathos took over and Ghost Rider had access to his full powers. Hulk didn't seem concerned by this in the slightest, and after an intense stare down, Ghost Rider simply left on his motorbike, as he only avenges the innocent, and the heroes of the Illuminati were not innocent in the slightest. Number 7. The Avengers. When Robbie Reyes was put under control by the vampire thrall known as the Legion of the Unliving, he was trapped in a never-ending traffic jam in hell while the Ghost Rider tried to kill his fellow teammates on the Avengers. Considering that they also were having to fight the evil Legion, they did very well combining their abilities to defeat the Ghost Rider. The fight began with Thor unleashing a flurry of attacks with his mighty hammer before Ghost Rider responded with a burst of hellfire so strong that both Thor and Captain Marvel were brought to their knees. The stunned teammates were defended by Captain America, who couldn't do much against the Rider, but was able to deflect several of his blows with his shield. This gave Captain Marvel enough time to regroup and punch a hole through his chest before being hit with the penance stare. As Thor struggled against Robbie's car, Carol found that the penance stare did not have a hold on her. She blasted the Rider, who tried to end the Avengers with a penance bomb. The two captains got him in a hold while Thor flew over holding Robbie's car. They were hoping to use the trunk of the car, which leads to Hell, to send the Rider away, but by that point, Blade had finished fighting the vampires and simply bit the Ghost Rider, sucking out the corruptive forces and returning him to the side of his teammates. Number 6. Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is a difficult hero to defeat, so when looking for heroes who have managed to defeat him, one of the best answers is other Ghost Riders. The series' all-new Ghost Rider features the story of Robbie Reyes, who works in an auto repair shop by day, but takes the cars he's working on to street races at night. One night, while racing, he's confronted by a paramilitary group who shoot him and take duffel bags full of pills from the car's trunk before lighting both him and the car on fire. Robbie is transformed into a Ghost Rider possessed by the evil spirit of the evil Eli Morrow and sets out on a quest for revenge. Eli pushes him towards more and more violent acts, but he's confronted by the other Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, in issue number 8. The new Ghost Rider charges at the old one, but is immediately grabbed by the throat and slammed into the ground. Eli tries to attack Johnny with a chain, but is trounced once again, does manage to wrap the chain around Johnny's feet. Eli drives away in his car, dragging the other rider behind him before Johnny confronted him on the roof of the car. Johnny is momentarily confused by the fact that the new Ghost Rider has 2 human souls, and Eli is able to kick him off the roof and get away. The next issue, Johnny catches up to Eli, who seems to be winning this rematch until Johnny uses the penance stare on Eli, putting Robbie back in control and ending the fight. Number 5. The Hulk. Again. In the Immortal Hulk run, the Hulk is once again on the run from government agents. After Alpha Flight's Walter Lankowski, aka Sasquatch, is possessed by the One Below All and kills a hospital full of people, the leader of Alpha Flight, Captain Marvel, is given an ultimatum. Either turn Lankowski in or capture the Hulk. She decides that since Walter wasn't in control of his actions, that she will capture Hulk. Something easier said than done. She assembles her other superhero team, the Avengers, and sets out to confront Banner. The heroes she brings are Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, She-Hulk, and Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider. We don't see the beginning of the fight at the beginning of issue number 7, which opens with the Hulk launching Ghost Rider and his car into a house, knocking Danny unconscious, and making him uninvolved with the rest of the fight. As Robbie is possessed by Eli Morrow and not the spirit of vengeance Zarathos, he does have a tendency to be beaten a lot more often than characters like Johnny Blaze, but this defeat is particularly unimpressive. Incidentally, if you want to learn more about the Immortal Hulk, check out my video on it in our Attempting to Explain series. Number 4. Ghost Rider again. We've had a couple examples of Robbie Reyes getting his butt kicked by other heroes, so let's be fair and give him his due. In the Avengers Volume 8, Challenge of the Ghost Riders arc, Robbie is trying to get rid of the demon inside him. He's given the opportunity to win his soul in a race against the current King of Hell, Johnny Blaze, with the winner getting to sit on the throne of Hell. Johnny does everything he can to cheat and prevent Robbie from winning, giving the spirit of Eli Morrow a dead celestial to inhabit and taking away Robbie's Hell Charger, but the Avengers come through for him and bring him a ship that he uses to get to the throne first. He socks Johnny to the ground, telling him that he won because he was a smart enough Ghost Rider to allow himself to be helped by others. Basically pulling a Vin Diesel and going on about how nothing's impossible with family. He gives up the throne to Johnny, having won the race and humiliated him in front of his damned subjects. Number 3. The Avengers. One issue earlier, the Avengers were confronted in their headquarters by the time-traveling Cosmic Ghost Rider Frank Castle. Cosmic Ghost Rider is an extremely powerful foe, having both the powers of the Rider and possessing the power Cosmic, so meeting him and not immediately dying is a huge accomplishment. Johnny thought that the Avengers were working with Johnny Blaze rather than against him, and attacked the team. He fought She-Hulk and Thor, not really getting that damaged and not even being slowed down when decapitated, instead using his skull as a club to beat She-Hulk. He didn't even admit that anything hurt until She-Hulk and Thor combined their powers to hit him with gamma lightning. Captain Marvel then took her shot at Frank, keeping him at bay with photon blasts until Captain America, Black Panther, and the others arrived to help. They were able to deal some damage, but the MVP of the fight was Blade, who used a demonic gun to take out Frank's bike and fire a warning shot into his shoulder, which stopped Frank in his tracks and allowed the Avengers to convince him they weren't in league with Blaze, ending the fight. Hard to say if the Avengers would have won the fight if it had continued, and this one's a bit of a draw, but as Frank essentially surrendered, I'm gonna let the Avengers have this one. Number 2. Daredevil. In the Shadowland miniseries, the hero Daredevil was made the leader of the evil group of assassins known as the Hand. He agreed, hoping to be able to use the group for good, but as his power grew, he became colder, distant, and brutal. As he grew more unhinged, the heroes of New York came to him hoping to bring him back to his senses, but Daredevil had snapped and sent his assassins after them. They later discovered that Matt had in fact been possessed by a demon known as the Beast, who was the Hand's true leader. Since they were dealing with demons, it only made sense to send in Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider to try and deal with with the situation. Things did not go to plan, as Daredevil managed to kick the rider off of his bike almost immediately. Ghost Rider tried to end things by engulfing Daredevil in hellfire, but Daredevil merely laughed, seemingly unaffected. He then grabbed the rider and took all his power, absorbing his hellfire and tossing him aside. Number 1. The Silver Surfer. This takes place in the future timeline, where the Punisher becomes the Cosmic Ghost Rider and was granted the power Cosmic by Galactus to try and defeat Thanos. When Galactus fell in battle to Thanos, the Rider changed his allegiance and became the black right hand of the Mad Titan. This was witnessed by the Silver Surfer, who knew that he must defeat the pair, but knew he lacked the power to do so. He spent millennia becoming worthy enough to lift Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and was imbued with dark matter, making him an even more powerful character known as the Fallen One. He was not able to defeat Thanos in the end, but he was able to use Thor's hammer when confronted by the Cosmic Ghost Rider to shatter his skull and kill him with a single blow.
And at number 10 is Deadpool. It could be that the penance stare just doesn't work on Deadpool, or, as stated when he survived the stare in Deadpool number 26, it could also be that Zarathos simply didn't want to end Wade Wilson's life, as Johnny Blaze states that the Ghost Rider wanted to show Deadpool something, and if it wanted to take his life, then Deadpool would be a goner. Instead, it did show Deadpool his past and kind of remind him of the things that have sucked in his said past. There are various reasons the penance stare doesn't affect certain people. For the most part, historically, it works based on what the writer's or the victim's perspective of the sins are. But realistically though, the only way to survive the penance stare is if you either don't have a soul or if you have divine protection. Otherwise, if Zarathos wants you dead, you're doomed. But then again, that isn't always the case. Number 9, Centurius. No soul means no fear from the penance stare. So robots, for example, can't be affected by the penance stare, or people like Centurius, who sold their souls, would be another example. The proof for this point can be found in Ghost Rider number 43 from 1990, where Centurius completely ignores Ghost Rider's most dangerous ability thanks to the lack of a soul. Basically, for those of you who don't know who Centurius is, I don't blame you, but he is cool. Basically, the guy who would become this soulless character belonged to a small Native American tribe 2,000 years ago. Followers of Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance, ransacked his village. So he sought out Mephisto for help, and Mephisto helped by removing his soul. Now, when he confronted Zarathos, Centurius was pretty much immune to many of the spirit's attacks, and he defeated it. So you can imagine when he faced Ghost Rider himself, the penance stare did absolutely nothing. Number 8. Johnny Blaze. But let's further contradict ourselves, shall we? In Doctor Strange Damnation number 3, Johnny Blaze is immune to the penance stare that is performed on him by Black Panther because, and I quote, "I'm not really the penitent type." He then says, "Nice try, kitty," and kicks Panther in the nuts. Nice. But the really confusing problem here is that he has been affected by the penance stare before. In fact, 2 Ghost Riders both had the penance stare performed on them and they were both affected. Johnny Blaze used the penance stare on Danny Ketch, who recovered seemingly very quickly, and then used the stare back on Johnny, so whoever is writing the rules at Marvel needs to make some sense, bro. Number 7. Thanos. And now we enter into the area of the video where I have a hard time explaining the penance stare. Up until this point, the other characters who were spared by Zarathos had no soul or they were Ghost Riders. But with Thanos and more than a few characters after this point, they are simply not affected by the penance stare thanks to the view they have on their sins. In Cosmic Ghost Rider number 5, we learn Thanos is more or less immune to the stare as well due to the little fact that he absolutely does not regret anything he's ever done. Not only that, but he has actually enjoyed what he's done. This is not MCU Thanos, by the way. That's kind of important because MCU Thanos did what he did for the good of the universe. He was clearly affected by the passing of Gamora, and the penance stare would absolutely destroy him. But comic Thanos? He is literally pining after death. He is in love with death and has done some insane things just to impress her. As we see in Thanos number 15 from 2018, for Thanos, he enjoys what he does and he likes to remind himself of his sins using the writer's most powerful move just before he eats breakfast. Number 6. The Deacon. The Deacon believed that he was chosen by God to take down all of the sinners in the world, which led him to being imprisoned for being a serial killer. It was actually Zadkiel that chose Deacon, but he's an angel / archangel, so like split the difference, I guess. This guy, the Deacon, is more or less immune to the penance stare for a similar reason to our buddy Thanos. As he says, the Ghost Rider's stare doesn't work on him because he's not bothered by anything he's done. Which doesn't really make sense, cause even in the story that he says it, Ghost Rider literally says on the previous page that the penance stare makes people feel all the pain they've ever caused, all the misery, every crime they've committed in the name of God, every person they have crippled or maimed. He says nothing about how that person feels about it, but okay, Deacon, go off, I guess, I don't know. Luckily for Mr. Blaze, there was a massive Bible nearby and he proceeded to beat the snot out of Deacon using it. Number 5, Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, powered through the penance stare in Avengers number 16 from 2018. Robbie Reyes had been turned to the dark side by the leader of the Legion of the Unliving, and during the fight with his other Avengers, the super demonic looking Ghost Rider gets a hold of Carol Danvers and performs the penance stare, with her throwing her head back screaming, but she just seemed to power through it. The reason that Captain Marvel gave for this one, right after it failed, is because she has done penance her whole life and is tired of being punished for existing. Did she just power through it, or is it actually because she is over the whole penance thing? Does this sound like plot armor? I don't know, kind of to me, but they gotta beat him somehow, I guess, so. Number 4, the Punisher. Apparently, the Punisher is immune to the penance stare due to regretting nothing, which he stated in Thunderbolts number 29 from 2013. But hold your horses, because it has also worked on him as well. The time it worked was apparently because, as stated in Double Edge Alpha and Omega, the Punisher was regressed to the day his family died, with him brainwashed into thinking Nick Fury is the one who did the deed on his family. He eventually takes out Nick Fury before being tranked and penance stared. This Punisher was not only mentally different from the one with no regrets, but he was going psychotic. But then again, it was also revealed that the only reason Punisher was saved from the stare back in Thunderbolts number 29 was in fact because he had divine protection due to Deadpool using the Angel's Feather on him. Number 3, Blackheart. In 2012's Venom number 14, Blackheart had successfully brought hell to Las Vegas, and a group of disparate superheroes were trying to take him down. The solution that the heroes came up with was for the Red Hulk to merge with Venom's symbiote and also gain the spirit of vengeance, making an awesome Ghost Hulk Venom Rider, or a Venom Ghost Rider Hulk, a Hulk Rider symbiote ghost. Whatever you want to call this mashup, he or they or hims use the penance stare on Blackheart, but what do you know, showing a demon all of his misdeeds actually serves to power up said demon, and Blackheart instantly went on the counterattack. Now this one, much like the soulless characters, kind of actually just makes sense to me. Blackheart is the son of Mephisto, the one who gave Ghost Rider the spirit of vengeance in the first place, but also the stare makes its victims relive all of their misdeeds at once, and misdeeds are Blackheart's source of power, so whoops. Number 2, symbiotes. At one point, both Venom and Ghost Rider were part of the Thunderbolts, and being a team of morally gray characters and villains, it was literally only a matter of time until things got ugly. In Thunderbolts number 23, Ghost Rider and Venom came into conflict, and Ghost Rider used the penance stare on the symbiote. But holy guacamole, Ghost Rider was overwhelmed by just how much messed up stuff that the Venom symbiote had done over the years. But I don't really understand this, as those are literally the things that the penance stare is supposed to manipulate and use against a victim. You know, whatever. But there is proof it may just be a symbiote power. There was an instance during a crossover between Ghost Rider / Blaze, the Spirits of Vengeance, and Web of Spider-Man that revealed that there was a problem between Ghost Rider's penance stare and the symbiotes, period, since they are not from this planet, which made it really dumb in Absolute Carnage, Symbiotes of Vengeance number 1, when Ghost Rider tried to use the stare on Carnage, who specifically reminded the writer he had tried this on Venom before and it did not work. So why he would think that he could make it work on Carnage, I'm not too sure. And in at number 1 is Conan the Barbarian. Finally, the most recent and seemingly most underexplained one. In Savage Avengers number 21, Conan the Barbarian had sort of merged with a symbiote weapon so that Conan and the symbiote, who both held a grudge against the sorcerer Kulan Gath, could get their vengeance together. Ghost Rider, meanwhile, was dealing with some of his own Kulan Gath issues and confronted Conan to learn where he could get to Kulan Gath. Now the two battled, and in the middle of the fight, Ghost Rider broke out the penance stare on Conan, only it did Absolutely nothing. Now, given that Coulon was using a symbiote weapon at the time, the problem for Ghost Rider was likely tied to the symbiote, but it could also be that Conan just believes so strongly in that Crom dude that this heaven and hell thing doesn't really matter to him. Maybe. But whatever the reason is, Conan was able to get past the penance stare very, very easily, and Conan was even able to destroy Ghost Rider's skull, but the resulting side effect of that action led Conan to being sent back in time to the Hyborian age, so you know, 2 wins, 1 loss. What are you gonna do? Number 10. Deathlock. As if to prove my point with the whole robot thing, I have found an example. In Deathlock's solo run comic from 1991, in issue number 9 specifically, the Ghost Rider and the cyborg Deathlock come to blows, and the Ghost Rider absolutely rocks Deathlock. Now, while Deathlock does indeed have a human side to him, when Ghost Rider decides to perform the penance stare for the innocent lives the Deathlock has taken, he realizes even the human side of the cyborg has no soul. To be fair, the soul was taken or suppressed by the demon lord Nightmare, so there is that point. But still, the stare did not work and was actually used against the Spirit of Vengeance. Now, this does help me move smoothly on to number 9, Ultron. Now, allow me to do a little bit of speculation here. While this has never actually happened, to my knowledge, a character who has no soul should theoretically be immune to the stare of the Ghost Rider. Well, you know who ain't got a soul? That's right, robots. And when I think of Marvel and I think of robots, I think of Ultron. Now, I kind of want to open this up as a debate. In my mind, there is no way that the Ghost Rider's penance stare could affect Ultron, but I guess what really makes me wonder here is if that applies in the case of AI. We're about to get into a very science fiction based debate here, so I'm sorry in advance. But if artificial intelligence is achieved and a robot can make decisions all on its own and gain sentience and all that fun stuff, does that mean it now has a soul? How do we determine what a soul is? Man, I have so many questions, but I do believe the Ghost Rider would have a hard time getting the penance stare to do anything against Ultron. So, number 8. Nightmare. Ghost Rider issue number 11 from the 90s, called Hex Lies and Inner Escapes, showed that Nightmare was immune to the penance stare. Ghost Rider Danny Ketch, who was the first Ghost Rider to actually use the penance stare, uses his most powerful move, and Nightmare simply just states that Ghost Rider should know that won't work on him. As a demon lord, this does kinda make sense, and the other point that is worth noting is that the Ghost Rider was in Nightmare's dream dimension when he tried to use the penance stare. In the dream dimension, Nightmare is basically all powerful. He can do essentially anything he wants to. This does make me wonder how the stare might affect Nightmare outside of his dimension where he is significantly weaker. The other thing is that Nightmare does cause pain and suffering, because he's literally called Nightmare. But would it be considered a sin? Because it's kind of his job. So many questions, so little answers. Hey nerd. Poke, hit, prod, slap, smack, punch, press, caress, and tickle that like button. Your likes are the very thing that keeps me alive. I don't need food, I don't need water, I need your likes. Anyways, number 7, Captain Glory. Captain Glory, or Glari, very clever, is an enhanced Kree super soldier bestowed with a number of powers and abilities by the Kree Empire. He has the superhero starter pack of abilities that all unaltered and augmented Kree possess: super strength, speed, endurance, durability, stamina, etc, etc. He can also harness and redistribute internalized ambient energy, which is always powerful, but none of these abilities save anyone from the penance stare. It is stated by Glari himself that he was also conditioned to not feel guilt over his actions, and this is apparently why he was immune to Robbie Reyes's penance stare while he was the Ghost Rider flying a Hellfire Quinjet, which is really cool. So basically, this is just another example of the penance stare not working how it's supposed to. It's not supposed to make a person feel guilty. It's supposed to make a person feel the pain they've inflicted on others through their sins. And that's been stated so many times. Sorry. It was kind of cool though how Glari was like, "I don't commit sins, I just follow orders." It was a cool line. It's a stupid concept though, I'm sorry. Number 6, Spider X. One of the ways that a character has been able to resist the penance stare before is actually by having more than 2 eyes. Now, on a day-to-day basis, almost no one I run into has more than 2 eyes. almost. But in Marvel Comics, there are a few characters who do indeed possess more eyes than the normal everyday person. Spider-X, otherwise known as Brian Cornfield, is one such person. Brian was a big fan of superheroes, and being a New Yorker, Spider-Man was one of his favorites. He came into contact with a servant of Chthon who offered Brian superpowers similar to the Webhead, and using the Darkhold, he was given enhanced Spider-Man-like abilities, but he also became a spider demon as well as growing extra arms and extra eyes. Which was lucky for him because during his personal war on crime, a web he spun happened to cause Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider to crash. They had a bit of a scuffle and Ghost Rider used the extremely fickle penance stare, and what do you know, it did not work. Again, apparently all those eyes just diluted the effect of the stare. Interesting reasoning, honestly. I'd kind of love to hear your guys' theories down in the comments below. Number 5, ZODIAC. Now bouncing off of that point, another character that has multiple eyes who faced the Ghost Rider would be Norman Harrison. Norman is the vessel for 12 DICORs, which are a race of demon. In return for ending others' lives to supply the trapped demons with the essence of human blood, Harrison was given 12 powers and took on the name Zodiac, with each power representing a different zodiac sign. Now, when doing battle with the Ghost Rider in Ghost Rider Volume 3 in 1991, Norman's face is revealed as Ghost Rider is going to penance the heck out of this guy, only for Norman to reveal he is 1. Hella ugly, and 2. has 12 sets of eyes. Now, Ghost Rider doesn't actually use the stare, but Norman states, "Kind of hard to get a fix on any 2 for your penance stare, huh?" I'm just gonna assume that the mere shock of seeing that amount of ugly is what actually stopped Ghost Rider here. But I don't know. Number 4, MADCAP. Now, to say the penance stare did not work on the incredibly insane MADCAP is only kind of like a half-truth. It worked, but it definitely did not have the desired effect. MADCAP is pretty mad, as you might have guessed. It means that things just work differently in that absolutely bonkers noggin. MADCAP pretty much never feels anything, so when the stare was to be used on him, he was open to it as he knew it wouldn't do anything. Turns out, it actually did quite a lot, but unfortunately, MADCAP loved being able to feel something again since he was given his powers, and suddenly he became infatuated with the pain. Obsessed with it. Instead of causing him to pass away or become a husk, he suddenly wanted to take more innocent lives just to get penance stared once more. Does this count? I kinda say it counts. He was kinda perfectly fine. I think it counts. Number 3. CHOAM. CHOAM here is an interesting addition to this list. He is a very strong and very durable killer hired by Anton Hellgate to go after the Ghost Rider. Now CHOAM is unaffected by the penance stare, and the only explanation we are given is another one of my absolute least favorite ones. The only thing we are told by CHOAM himself is that he likes taking lives. It makes him happy, and that he also apparently hasn't felt anything that the Ghost Rider has done to him. Now this character only appears in Ghost Rider Volume 3 number 69, so it's hard to say, but he was specifically picked to fight the Ghost Rider, and it could be because he has some kind of immunity. Whether that is divine or something else, we don't know, and we probably never will know. The character does actually come back to life after being killed, so maybe that plays into it somehow? This character is a mystery. He could have avoided the penance stare because he likes killing people, but it's not really stated to be the reason, and it could be he has some other abilities we just don't know. He does get chained up and defeated that way though, so there's that. Number 2, Skinner. Personally, I kinda think Ghost Rider needs to stop trying this move on demons. They clearly get like way too much joy out of it. The Lilins specifically are a group of demons created by Lilith. And they are all unique with different unique powers and abilities. But the one we want to talk about today is Skinner, who is said to be the most powerful Linin to ever exist. He has fought Ghost Rider and the Midnight Suns, but in Ghost Rider Volume 3 number 64 is the first time he actually gets dealt the penance stare. And instead of taking this demon down, the stare actually backfires completely and deposits all the pain Skinner was supposed to feel right back onto the Ghost Rider himself. Skinner was stunned temporarily and Ghost Rider survives, but he got hit with his own move, and it clearly shook him as instead of finishing the job, Ghost Rider retreated. And finally at number 1 is Daredevil. Similar to how Spider-X having multiple eyes saved him from the penance stare, those who have no eyes, or literally cannot see, are pretty safe from the stare as well. Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is one such blind character who has survived the penance stare, and not just once either. Daredevil number 295 shows Ghost Rider grabbing Matt and bringing the full force of his demonic glare onto him. And while Matt is pretty shook up by the experience, his lack of vision means the stare doesn't actually do anything. And this is another one of those instances where I kind of have to say that it does actually make sense. I agree with this one. This one's good. Keep this one. Another similar thing happens in Daredevil number 372, where an enraged Daredevil calls out Ghost Rider for his actions as judge, jury, and executioner. Again, Matt's blindness protects him, though he does show a vulnerability to the mere power of the Ghost Rider's overwhelming presence, which is exactly how it should feel to have Ghost Rider around.